They did the unimaginable. They brought belligerents from every side of a conflict together to say, yeah, that reporting is actually false. Think about that. It is something that I will not ever forget. A wonderful moment of unity.
Well, in an exclusive interview with Al Jazeera, US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken discussed the war in Gaza and the prospects of a ceasefire deal. Al Jazeera's Jalal Chada sat down with him for a one-on-one.
Hamas submitted a response to the proposal seeking some amendments. How do you assess the response so far?
Just to step back for 1 second. 12 days ago, President Biden laid out this proposal. And
the hoochie coochie man, dude. Let's go. Pop off, King. Where's his guitar, dude?
In that time, almost the entire world came out in support of it, including the United Nations Security Council, but also the Arab League, virtually every country in this region and well beyond. Israel accepted the proposal. Palestinian Authority accepted the proposal. Hamas was the one answer we were waiting for. And the answer that we got last night that was submitted to Qatar, that was submitted to Egypt.
Yeah, the only group that wasn't even remotely confident in the proposal was our ally, the most moral democracy of all time, the most moral military of all time, Israel. Because the notion that it was like Hamas that was sour on the proposal is a lie, is an abject lie. But you know, we'll keep it going. We'll just keep this lie going for as long as we can. Yeah, no, it's just really fucked up how Hamas is saying no to its own proposal that it announced on May 6th, according to Anthony Blinken. So weird, so strange. Another case of pure projection.
And to us as the mediators in this process, unfortunately, was not the yes that everyone else had provided. It was looking for more changes to the agreement, including changes on items that Hamas had previously accepted. So the hard reality is
So Hamas officials said they would agree, and Israel said nothing publicly, and neither parties agreed formally, right? No. The proposal that was put forward looked creepily similar to proposals that Hamas has presented since February, like damn near identical. The three phase being like straight up carbon copy. Okay. First phase being a negotiation for the mutual hostage release, like a prisoner swap agreement. And then the second phase leading to a permanent cessation of hostilities. And then the third phase being a reconstruction and rebuilding of Gaza. Now, the issue is Hamas said yes to that proposal, like directly that proposal, because American envoys interfered in the deal. And according to Israel, someone, maybe an Egyptian spy, snuck in to the deal and added the permanent ceasefire, the permanent cessation of hostilities into that bargain. Hamas famously, openly, publicly accepted that deal. And then Israel was like, whoa, hold on. We didn't say permanent cessation of hostility. We never put that shit in there. Who's a part of this deal? What's going on? Okay. And then they bombed Rafah and they did the tent massacre. Okay. Then they went into, they literally directly went into Rafah, violating Biden's red line, and also did the tent massacre, which got them even more negative coverage in the Western world. A lot of people were very upset. Since then, 3 weeks ago at this point, it's been almost 3 weeks now, Brandon came out and said, I have a deal in my hand. This is an Israeli deal. Israelis wrote this deal. It's a 3-phase ceasefire and permanent end to hostilities proposal. Look how wonderful this is. Turns out Israel had a very different opinion on that very same deal that supposedly they wrote. Israel thought that they could, I guess, and this is speculation because we don't know the exact details of what the Israeli proposal looked like. Even motherfuckers in the war cabinet or the broader Israeli government did not know what the exact details of the deal looked like because it was kept close to the chest by Bibi Netanyahu. But as far as we understand, Joe Brandon came out and said ceasefire and permanent cessation of hostilities. Those two things obviously are the most important, most pressing parts of the deal. So everybody started throwing up W's. Oh my God, finally peace is going to happen. Everybody except for the Israeli government. Israel immediately came out. Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted out, no. They're saying this is our deal. This is not our deal. What are you talking about? Hold on a moment now. We meant give us the hostages in phase 1 and then we keep bombing. We will not stop bombing until Hamas is completely eviscerated, which is a ridiculous argument to make because obviously how are you going to completely destroy Palestinian resistance? You're not going to be able to do that. It doesn't matter. There is no way out of this. Through direct military conquest, this is only a political solution. You can only get here through a political solution. Now, Israel said, nah, that's not our deal, actually. What the Benjamin Netanyahu's own party members, own Knesset members came out. Likud party members straight up were saying, this guy, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's out of his mind, I think. What do you mean permanent end to hostilities? Itamar Ben-Gvir literally said, if you do this deal, I will disband the government. Okay? So Benjamin Netanyahu was in a precarious situation, stuck between a rock and a hard place, okay? He thought, I suspect, that, Americans will go along with it and be like, yeah, it's going to be a deal. It's a ceasefire. Shut the fuck up. And then allow Israel, without any assurances given to Hamas, to continue its bombing campaign, which hasn't really stopped at all, right? Since that original announcement on that Friday afternoon, there has been 3 weeks of back and forth. The entire time, the American government and the American State Department has said, this is Israel's deal. They love it. They love this deal. They want to do a ceasefire. It's Hamas that's it up. Hamas very publicly and very openly since that said, we are looking positively at this. We're looking at this deal very positively. This is our deal. We like this deal. This is a great deal. Okay? Oh, God, come on. I'm using this as an opportunity to teach you, and you're over here trying to be like at the top of Yeah, at the top of the hour, there's an ad break, dude. I'm never going to have chatters open if you guys keep this shit up. Not even a good bait, okay? That's not a good bait. That's a bad bait. Anyway, at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break, as that chatter correctly pointed out. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. All right, let's get back to what we were doing. Israel potentially was banking on Hamas saying no to the deal. But why would Hamas say no to the deal that they already presented? Hamas also wants a permanent cessation of hostilities. Hamas also wants Israel to stop blowing up Gaza, obviously. So when they said yes, Israel went, no! It's our deal, but also simultaneously not like that. We don't like this deal. Turns out we made this deal, but we don't like this deal. What the fuck are you guys doing? Let us keep bombing. We're going to keep bombing endlessly and senselessly. The bombings will continue until morale improves. So that is the issue. The issue here is, Mehtakar, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. The issue here is Israel does want to do the deal that it is supposedly presenting. Now, of course, there's a lot of dummies and a lot of charlatans in American mainstream media that will continue along with the narrative that this is Israel's deal and it's actually Hamas sullying the deal, even though over and over again, Hamas consistently repeats, okay? Hamas consistently repeats that they are positive about this deal. The last round of talks has been Hamas stating that they like the deal, that they're talking to the Egyptian and the Qatar envoys, and telling them we want assurances and a direct timeline of how we are going to reach phase 2 of the permanent cessation of hostilities part. This is the problem. Israel does not want a permanent cessation of hostilities. Israel's openly saying that they want to keep bombing. Israel, all things considered, seemingly thought that they could cut a deal where Hamas would release all the hostages, Israel would release some of the prisoners, okay? And then they could turn around and keep bombing Gaza. Meanwhile, while this is happening, in northern Israel, southern Lebanon, the bombing campaigns have intensified. Hezbollah is smoking Israeli military targets in northern Israel. Now, because Israel originally had also, from what I understand, did this whole tree planting operation, they have a lot of non-indigenous trees in the area, and those trees are susceptible to forest fires. Turns out those forest fires are becoming a major issue for northern Israel because Hamas keeps blowing up military positions, and then those military positions happen to be surrounded by invasive trees. Turns out that creates a lot of major problems as far as forest fires goes. Now, that is obviously hurting, Israeli stability, Israeli politics, but more importantly, it's a little bit like a big you to Israel. Israel's the big dog in the room, right? Israel doesn't get hit like that. Israel doesn't take that shit standing. They're not going to sit down and eat that. So now there's a lot of interest in the Israeli government, specifically from those like Itamar Ben-Gvir of the Jewish Power Party. He's a freak. And also Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, who's also another settler freak, basically trying to outdo one another on who is going to do more Hitlerian politics in Lebanon. So now Benjamin Netanyahu, constantly trying to respond to the internal pressure, constantly trying to continue the war campaign because he doesn't want to go to jail once the fucking war is over. He's done. And who knows if he'll be able to put back a government where he's in power. So if he can't do that, technically he is probably done with his political career and maybe even done being a free man because there's active corruption charges against him. Now he is trying desperately to respond to the other pressure. Why are the IDF using medieval weapons? Let me tell you, they're using the trebuchet specifically because they are trying to set fires. This is not for any reason other than the fact that they want to create fires. They are doing this laughable thing where Hezbollah rockets are creating fires in northern Israel, even though Hezbollah, as far as I understand, is not trying to attack the trees specifically. Okay? Hezbollah rockets hit military bases, fires occur, forest fires happen. So what they're trying to do is basically go, oh yeah, you got forest fires happening in Israel. Turns out we're going to do forest fire in Lebanon. Very weird. Lebanese residents near the border with occupied Palestine report widespread fires in southern Lebanon following Israeli occupation airstrikes and then the use of flame projectiles by Israel. Most moral army. They try to claim that it's to set Hezbollah targets on fire, whatever that means. Yeah, no, they're not trying to.
Worldly.
Yeah, this was a very funny conversation that Jake Tapper had with Barak Ravid. Why did Hamas reject the deal? Barak Ravid responds, Hamas didn't. Israel did.
Did Hamas, Barak, give any explanation for its rejection?
Hi, Jake. So first, Hamas did not say that it rejected the deal. Hamas said that it gave a response to the Qatari and Egyptian mediators, that it gave several comments and remarks on parts of the Israeli proposal. Israel, the Israeli government, Israeli officials are the ones saying that after they received Hamas's response and analyzed it, they treat it as a rejection.
Almost like they're going down history lane. Yeah. Wall Street Journal opinion. Don't blame Israel first. Wonderland. World opinion should impose more pressure on Hamas military leader Yahya Sinwar. Nice. Wall Street Journal is out of control, by the way. They are a dish rag. They are functionally a dish rag since October 7. They've actually reported on shit so erroneously that like the American State Department, the Israeli government, and even the Iranian leadership and Hamas envoys have collectively gotten together in solidarity and said, no, that reporting is untrue. Something to remember. They did the unimaginable. They brought belligerents from every side of a conflict together to say, yeah, that reporting is actually false. Think about that. It is something that I will not ever forget. A wonderful moment of unity. Anyway, let's get back to Anthony Blinken.
We could have a ceasefire. We could have.
They're the Bezos Times now, only do what benefits Amazon. Are you talking about Wall Street Journal? No, that's Washington Post. Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch.
Maybe you had a ceasefire 12 days ago. But we don't in this moment because Hamas has not said yes. We have, I think, some changes that Hamas is looking for that are workable, that we can try to close the gap on. There are others that are not workable. So we have to see in the days ahead whether we can actually close the gaps.
Which report was that? The one that every side rebutted? It was the early reporting from Wall Street Journal in the immediate aftermath of October 7 that Iran was responsible for October 7, to which the Israeli government said, no, Iran did not do October 7. The Iranian government literally came out and said, we did not know about October 7, but holy shit, that shit was awesome. We should have been told about it. What the fuck are you guys doing? The American State Department said Iran had nothing to do with October 7. And even Hamas said, nah, Iran didn't do this. We did it ourselves. We didn't tell Iran, actually. I'm confused. Does Hamas issue a conditional acceptance with changes or no? No, as far as I understand, and unfortunately, there isn't a lot of information on the Hamas front. Neither is there any information on what the parts that they said were not workable, according to Anthony Blinken. But as far as we understand, they did not actually rewrite any of the conditions. They simply look for assurances and a timeline, which is not reneging on the deal. It is simply to say, let's solidify some of these terms and conditions, because we hear Israel keep saying, well, actually, we're going to keep bombing you guys after phase 1 is over and we take out all the hostages. So obviously, when Israel's saying that, you got to be like, all right, well, I want to know, where are the assurances? Thank you, Mehdi Kar, for another 50 big ones.
I think that the gaps are bridgeable, but just because they are doesn't mean they will be. Ultimately, Hamas has to decide. Everyone else has decided. Hamas is not.
What is not workable for you and for the Israel?
Well, I can't get into the details. You'll understand that given the sensitivity of the negotiations, we're not going to talk about the details. But what I can say is this. The proposal that President Biden laid out 12 days ago was virtually identical to one that Hamas had accepted and put forward itself on May the 6th. So there's no reason why this agreement should not be reached. The only reason would be Hamas continuing to try to change the terms. But here's what's the reality. The reality is, as this negotiation is going on, during the 12 days that it took Hamas to respond, the world wasn't standing still. Gaza wasn't standing still. People were suffering every single day. Palestinian children, women and men, suffering every single day. So from my perspective, from our perspective, it's time to stop all of this haggling and back and forth and start a ceasefire.
Hamas said the priority is to stop the war. What information did you receive from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during your meeting with him a few days ago in Israel concerning the permanent ceasefire in Gaza?
So what I can tell you from my conversations with Prime Minister Netanyahu was a reaffirmation of Israel's acceptance of the proposal that's on the table. And what does that proposal have in it? It says, first of all, that there'll be an immediate ceasefire, immediate. And during that immediate ceasefire, Israel will pull its forces back from populated areas in Gaza, will surge more humanitarian assistance into Gaza. Palestinians living.
Bro's like, I can't tell you the details. I can just tell you that like there are details. I just can't tell you what those details are, because these are very serious times. We're just in the middle of this negotiations process. Okay, if you're in the middle of this serious negotiations process, you don't want to fuck up the bag. Why are you the one that is like defending one side and routinely saying it's the other side that's actually like not cooperating, not playing ball, when it seems like we can see with our own two eyes that it's actually Israel that's not playing ball?
Back from populated areas in Gaza, will surge more humanitarian assistance into Gaza. Palestinians living in Gaza will be able to return to their neighborhoods, their homes, if their homes are still intact, anywhere in Gaza.
If their homes are still intact.
And during that initial phase, 6 weeks, both parties, Israel and Hamas, commit to negotiate toward a permanent ceasefire, with the understanding that the initial ceasefire will continue as long as those negotiations are going on. And this is backed by the United States, it's backed by Qatar, it's backed by Egypt. This is the quickest, most effective path to a durable ceasefire. And that means an end to the war. It also opens up so many other possibilities for where we want to go to try to get a truly durable peace for everyone in the region. And one place that we believe it's important to go is the realization of a Palestinian state.
How do you plan to address the situation?
Another thing that Israel routinely says no to, by the way, another thing that Israel routinely says no to with regular frequency is the very notion of a Palestinian statehood. Israel keeps repeating over and over again under like very certain conditions that this will never happen. They just say, nope, no Palestinian state, no two states, suck my dick. So who's America talking to? Because it doesn't seem like they're talking to Israel. They're talking to us about what Israel wants, but we can hear what Israel says.
Now, what are the next steps?
So I've met over the last 2 days with Qatari and Egyptian counterparts. We've been intensely engaged with all of our colleagues who've been working as mediators on this agreement. We have to continue to analyze the document and then see if over the coming days we can find a way to bridge the gaps that have emerged because Hamas wouldn't say yes.
What are the assurances that your administration can offer to both parties to, in order to proceed and finalizing the agreement?
Well, I think the assurances, first of all, are that the three countries that have been mediating this, the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, stand fully behind it and will stand behind it, and will make sure that both parties to the agreement make good on the commitments that are in the agreement. Second, I think there's another assurance here, which is the power of the fact that virtually the entire world stands behind this agreement. It's pretty rare these days to get the United Nations Security Council to speak with an almost unanimous voice. 14 votes in favor, not a single vote against, and the Russians abstaining. That, I think, speaks volumes to the fact that people all around the world want to see this war come to an end. They want to see the suffering come to an end. They want the hostages returned. All of that is in the proposal that's on the table.
Meanwhile, Israel operation to rescue 4 hostages in Nusayrat resulted in the death of more than 270 civilians, 3 hostages, one of them American, obviously, according to what the military spokesman of Qassam said. Do you think that military operations will release and secure the hostages in Gaza?
First, it is horrible that innocent children, women, and men lost their lives in the intense crossfire, the battle that took place when Israel was in the process of trying to rescue.
The f do you mean? It's not like they just shot at at civilians. They bombed them too. Like it wasn't like intense crossfire that killed 200 plus people, bro. Get the f out of here. Yeah. Oh man, sucks that there was intense crossfire that also happened to be a relentless bombing campaign in what they call what is it, a deterrence belt?
Rescue its hostages. Just as it's horrific that so many lives are being lost, so many lives are being ruined every single day in Gaza as a result of a war that Hamas started on October 7th. Look, there shouldn't have been any hostages to begin with. Once the hostages were taken, Hamas could have released them every single day since they took them. They didn't. Israel has a right to try to rescue its people. I wish that innocence had not been lost in the process. But again, the quickest way to resolve this entirely, the fastest way to resolve it entirely so that the war comes to an end, all the hostages come home, and we build a durable peace, is through this agreement, through this proposal.
Was Washington involved prior to or during this Israeli operation to rescue 4 hostages in Nusayrat?
I can't speak to any details, but of course we've tried to help the Israelis locate hostages if we had any information. Of course, we provide that. We want to see them come home. I think the most effective way to bring everyone home is through an agreement that not only brings them home, but gets an immediate ceasefire and leads to a permanent one.
Efforts are being made from your side to reopen Rafah crossing. Have any agreements been made with Israel to reopen, to manage the crossing, to prevent a severe famine in Gaza, especially in the north?
We're working on that every single day. We want to see Rafah reopened, just as we want to make sure not only that more humanitarian assistance is getting to Gaza, but that once it's in Gaza, it's getting effectively distributed to people who desperately need it. We were at a conference yesterday in Jordan that brought the entire region, and actually many countries from around the world together.
It's so wild that Israel is just a natural phenomena, dude. He just can't talk about this under any other condition where it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is a naturally occurring phenomena. Israel has to operate like this, like it's a goddamn hurricane. He's talking about it like it's literally a disaster zone, not caused by, you know, our weapons with our ally bombing relentlessly, but instead a volcano that exploded.
To do more for the Palestinians who are desperately in need. The United States pledged another $400 million. We are by far the single largest country contributor to Palestinians, any country on earth. And we've now, since the start of the war in Gaza, contributed nearly $700 million and $2.2 billion during the course of this administration. But it's imperative that not only are the resources there, but that there are ways to get it into Gaza, and once it's in Gaza, move it around to people who need it. We've had progress in recent weeks in the north, where the Israelis open crossings and more is getting in. There's a route from Jordan that goes directly so that trucks can move from Jordan through Israel to the crossings. Many goods are coming in through Ashdod port, but just as that was happening, the situation reversed in the south with the closure of Rafah as a result of the operations around Rafah. So yes, we want to get that open as quickly as possible. I can tell you we're working really around the clock with the Egyptians, with the Israelis, to find a way to get an agreement to reopen it.
Mr. Blinken, after visiting Israel lately, where you met with Minister Gantz, how do you assess the current internal situation in Israel following the resignation of Gantz and Eisenkot from the civil war?
Look, it's really not for me to comment on Israeli politics. These are decisions for the Israelis to make. These are decisions for the individuals to make about their participation or not in the government. Decisions for the Israeli people to make about their government. Minister Gantz is someone I have great respect for. We've worked closely together, and he leads a major party. So of course he's someone I'm going to talk to, just as I'll see people in the government. The opposition leader, Yair Lapid. It's important for us to be talking to everyone so that we have the clearest possible reflection of what people's views are throughout Israel and across Israeli society.
Your administration bluntly rejected any occupation of Gaza after war.
That's right.
How do you envision the future in Gaza? Who's going to be in charge on what you call it the next day?
So this is critical because in order for this war to end, we also have to be ready for that and ready for what comes next, for what happens on the day after. How do we look at governance? How do we look at security? How do we look at the reconstruction, which is going to be a massive undertaking? Over these last 4 or 5 months, I've been consulting intensely with partners in the Arab world, with the Palestinian Authority, including just over the last 2 days, precisely on these questions, the day after plans. And without going into any details now, we're at a point, and I mentioned this earlier today, where we are going to be putting forward ideas, concrete ideas for what we believe.
That's so funny. We're just beginning to talk about the potential for the ideas of a different tomorrow, and we're really considering the different considerations that we're making, and we've begun the thinking process of the consideration process. What do you mean? What is this? What the fuck are you saying? It's like, you have no plan. Israel has no plan. You don't have a plan either. The one plan that Biden floated a couple months back was putting Palestinian Authority in charge of Gaza, which is insane. We tried doing that, and I remember what happened. I mean, many of you probably also remember what happened. Last time George W. Bush tried doing that shit, there was a violent coup that only reaffirmed Hamas's strength and governance in Gaza. Every Palestinian hates the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is literally the only entity in the region that Palestinians despise as much as Israel, pretty much. They are only marginally more popular than Israel. Think about how bad it is.
Believe should happen, how we help organize things so that there can be a day after that actually deals with all of the challenges that Gaza will face, that Palestinians will face, even once the conflict ends.
Last question, Mr. Blinken, about the West Bank. Settlers' violence increases in West Bank.
So what's your solution here? Let Hamas continue to govern? In the interim period? Absolutely. Yes. The f*** do you mean, let Hamas continue to govern? Yeah, it's up to the Palestinians. I don't know if you know this, but like we love sitting in the comfort of our homes in the imperial core talking about our colonial servants, our subjects, and what must become of them. What are you talking about? How dare you and how dare I? Those are people, okay? Those are people that have a right to sovereignty. It is insane for people to just be like, well, I don't really understand this. Like, I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, take Marwan Barghouti out of prison. See who gets the votes. He's not Hamas. This will get clipped out of context, unfortunately. That's so insane. He has 56% popularity, 56% right now. If he were to assume control over any party, even though he's currently in Israeli prison, Hamas wants him out of Israeli prison, even though technically he is most likely going to be, if he is actually out of prison, he would most likely defeat Hamas electorally. Genuine question. Didn't mean it to be bait, by the way. No, I understand that. Like, people are so predisposed with the immediate aftermath of post-October 7 narratives of like, Hamas are bloodthirsty, barbarian, rapist monsters that they just think like it's unconscionable when for the past 8 months, they are one of the only forces that have been defending Palestinians. The fuck are we talking about? Like, there's a difference between engaging in an offensive campaign led by Hamas and other Palestinian resistance groups, many of which then also did atrocious actions specifically against the civilian population, unjustifiable actions in general, okay? Versus, since the Israeli siege, they are absolutely a spontaneous militia that is defending against a belligerent occupier. They are doing 100% the moral thing when they are defending the Palestinian lands against the Israeli occupation. It's ridiculous. What is the expectation? Like, Israel comes in, bombs everybody, and you just have to sit there and take it? Like, what the fuck are we doing? Yeah, no, Israel gets to rape and pillage. Sorry, because they're our allies, and people defending against that thing, that ethnic cleansing campaign, are actually the bad guys. Like, good luck getting me to recognize that. That's what I've been saying. Hamas is the lesser evil. Between Hamas and Israel, Hamas is absolutely the lesser evil.
Especially after October the 7th. How do you assess the situation there?
We've been deeply concerned about this, and as you know, we have taken steps to sanction extremist.
Also, there is no proof that Hamas taking care of Palestinian people during this war since October 7. Yes, there is. It's called the videos that they release on the telegrams with the red triangles. Also, I don't know if you know this, but they keep saying Hamas-run health ministry. Who do you think is doing the civil governance? Hampshire-run Gaza health ministry. This is new to me, thanks. Yeah, no, I don't think you understand what I'm talking about. I'm saying that, like, they are engaging in a defensive posture against a belligerent occupier, Israel. So that is what they're supposed to be doing. The military branch is doing their job, which is defending against Israeli incursion, Israeli violence. It is absolutely well within both international standards, and also it is what is moral in that situation. That's what they're doing. They're taking care of the Palestinian people by not just putting their arms down and getting ass blasted with the rest of the population. What are we talking about? The idea that, like, Israel would stop bombing if Hamas put their arms down is ridiculous. Those who have put their arms down and live under military occupation receive what Israel does in their moments of kindness in the West Bank, which is ironic because that's what Hamas is oftentimes responding to anyway. Anyway, beyond that, obviously, as far as like the civil governance goes, like the military, the reason why Israel gets to kill anyone and everyone, well, aside from the fact that they're Israel and they get to do what the they want and the media will go along with it, is also because they keep saying, oh, well, these are Hamas guys. These are Hamas. We killed a Hamas commander. Turns out the Hamas commander is not a Hamas commander. He's not a part of the military branch at all. He is the chief of police. Why did they kill him? Because he brought the police force in the organization of the aid delivery, because there was chaos in the aid distribution. So then Israel went and killed him. That's how they punish him. You forget that there are millions of people living here. So obviously there's still some semblance of civil governance.
Settlers who've engaged in acts of violence or intimidation, and will, as necessary, to continue to do that. But we have real concerns about that. And beyond that, I think life in the West Bank already challenging and difficult has gotten even more difficult as people are not able to go to jobs that they've had, as movement is more restricted, and as we see pressure being exerted from the extremist settlers. So this is something that not only is a deep concern to us, but it's also something we've taken action on. Beyond all of that, look, we are working every day to bring this war to an end, to bring the suffering of people to an end, to bring the hostages home, to put everyone on the path to a more durable peace, more durable security. And a big part of that is getting this agreement. I think that's the most critical step. But there's something else that's so critical in this moment, and it's so hard. What I've seen over these last 8 months, and of course it predates the 8 months, but it's been intensified, is something I've talked about before.
Bro's like, you know who's suffering in all this? Me. He's like, listen, nobody talks about the real people that suffer in this process, which is guys like me, okay? Israel won't even let me sing Hoochie Coochie Man at an Israeli bar. It's really f***ed up. When I went to Ukraine, they let me do it. When I go to Israel, they're like, no, only techno music. Really f***ed up, dude. He just wants to keep on rocking in the free world, but Israel won't let him.
But it's this poison of dehumanization, the inability of all sides to see the humanity in the other. And when that happens, when hearts harden, it becomes very, very hard to do the good things, and it becomes very easy to justify the bad things. So one of the things that we have to do, we have to find a way to do, is to remember the humanity in each other, because that's what it's all about. When I see children, little boys, little girls, lose their parents in Gaza and are on their own, that hits me as hard as a little boy or little girl who lost his or her parents on October 7th. There's no hierarchy of suffering. It's all about real human beings. And that's the thing we have to have in our minds every single day as we work to bring this to an end, but not only bring it to an end, get to a...
This is such a funny thing to say. As the Secretary of State, like, bro, there is a difference. Okay? Beyond like apartheid versus resistance to apartheid dynamics, which I'm not going to get into, it's your weapons and your social and political capital expended in defending Israel's consistent bombing campaign that is killing, that's orphaning those children. Think about it, dude. Yeah. Being like an American official during the Holocaust and being like, you know, the real problem is that these Jews don't love Germans enough. And the Germans don't love the Jews enough. But these Jews, they don't love the Germans enough. That's a big problem for me. You know, yeah, we gave them the ovens. We gave the Germans the ovens to keep melting the Jewish people in the concentration camps and the labor camps. But like, they should just learn to love the Germans more. And then things will get better.
To a better place. A place where Israelis and Palestinians can actually live side by side in peace and security. I'm convinced that that's not only possible, it's absolutely necessary. But the first step is getting the ceasefire, getting this war in Gaza to end, and building from there.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.